If you're gay, like they give you electroshock therapy and try to convert you, and
Like, I think pickles are disgusting, but I'm not like, hey, you shouldn't be eating those pickles, man. Like that.
yeah.
Somebody else likes pickles, whatever, great.
Even if you don't like it, you just let them be.
So why is it that you can't just be like, well, I don't understand, but I'm going to accept it and maybe ask some questions in a respectful way and try to understand.
I don't care what somebody else eats. I just don't stick a cheeseburger with onions on it down my throat because I will flip out.
No matter how bad you think it is or how bad it is, you need to confront it. You need to bring it out into the open and have a conversation about it.
Well, now if there's like men marrying men and women marrying women, there's going to be like people marrying goats and like their office desk and stuff, like that kind of thing. Like, well, it's going to just translate into all this other stuff. And my thought is like, so okay, welcome to another Kitchen Sink Microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and don't forget to wait until watch all the way to the end of the episode because we write our own music, and there'll be a unique song that you've probably never heard before at the end. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Casey Rochford, and we're happy to be here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. You got anything on your mind, or?
Well, there's always something on my mind. There's quite a few things, but I guess we're coming up on the tail end of Pride Month, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about maybe. Well, this is kind of a big subject, but maybe talk a little bit about the LGBT movement and some of those things.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I've got I've got the closest thing to a rainbow I've got here, so that's kind of fitting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to discuss there, and a big part of what Pride is, it was kind of born out of a protest, and it's morphed a little bit into celebration, but I think it still carries that torch for that protest spirit, because the struggle is far from over for that.
Well, and really, in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't been that long since there was literal oppression for being different.
Oh yeah, like in my adult lifetime, I've seen it.
Yeah. Where if you're gay, like they give you electroshock therapy and try to convert you, and maybe you could be charged with a crime.
Yeah, that stuff is still kind of going on today. There's always this back and forth tug of war with certain politically idealized people that think that there's only two genders, and certain sexual proclivities are a sin and all that stuff, and they try to work that into the legislation. And
yeah, well, fortunately, I think that's slowly changing, where people are becoming a little more tolerant and understanding.
Oh, for sure. On the whole, it's definitely been getting a lot better. But
yeah, that's
but like I said, there's still resistance, and you got to keep pushing against that.
Sure. But the thing is, it's very well embedded in many cultures. not just ours, but many cultures. And
Many species.
well, that's true. Yeah.
Like biologically speaking, this is something that's perfectly natural.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
like, well, every part of the spectrum in this LGBTQ plus blah 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 blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and I think that's why they put the plus, so they didn't have to like make a ridiculously long acronym that
Yeah.
kind of defeats the purpose of shortening something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, I just wanted to mention the acronym. I maybe it might be time to come up with something new. Maybe some people have, but it's getting like really long and kind of absurd.
Well, I
But it
always
really
kind of,
it's the same thing. Like it's just a matter of live and let live. Like
yeah,
let people be who they are, whatever that, even if you don't like it, you just let them be.
yeah. You know, a 5-letter acronym isn't so bad. I just think they need to rearrange the letters. I think it needs to be GBLTQ, so you have a sandwich between the spectrum. BLT, you know.
Oh, there's always a pun somewhere. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Oh yeah. I yeah. This is. I think there is still a long way to go. And but I'm optimistic because it is. I mean, there have been major improvements. We're in a way different place than we were, say, like in the 50s.
Yeah, but it's I think we probably should talk about maybe what's behind the reasons for people being so against this.
Religion.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it.
it really is. Like I've never heard a secular reason for thinking that homosexuality is bad, or deciding that your gender is different is bad.
Well, maybe I think people can have their own feelings about it, but it's a matter of, do you say, well, is your view, well, I don't really like this, or it bothers me, or I feel weird about it, but it's okay because that's somebody over there and it really doesn't affect me?
Yeah,
Or are you arresting people and doing things to them, or beating them up in the streets, or worse, or whatever? There's a difference there, I think.
yeah. I mean, I see these people who like, even to this day, some people still react like this. They see two gay people and they're instantly like, ew. And I'm like, what? Like, do you really need to like vocalize that? I mean, if you think it's disgusting, you've got that right to feel that way.
Sure.
But like, I think pickles are disgusting, but I'm not like, hey, you shouldn't be eating those pickles, man. Like that.
Yeah.
Somebody else likes pickles. Whatever. Great. That's
I have the same feeling about onions, or certain like that weird perfume that old ladies wear. Like, oh man, that just like makes me want to yak. But at this, I'm just like, whatever. That's an old person thing, I guess. Like, I don't understand it. You get to that age and that smells really good, apparently, and I move on. Like, I just walk away. Like, I don't care. So I don't understand how people can get so uptight about that, and want to control people and dictate what they can and can't do behind closed doors, or even out in the open, I guess, within reason.
yeah. And like so many things, I think it boils down to this either or fallacy, where they think you're either straight or you're gay. There's no in between. Because I think there are some people who are kind of on the fence, where they're like, yeah, there's gay people, that's fine, whatever, that's their life. But then they get like confused about bisexuals and transsexuals and think that there's something wrong with that because it kind of goes against their idea that you're either this or that. And
well, that's because most people haven't been taught or have studied fuzzy logic. So I encourage everybody to do that. Yeah, that is a good point. That yeah,
and you know, like I totally understand not being able to wrap your head around something that you personally don't experience, because I completely feel that way about transsexuality. Like I don't understand. I can't put myself in those shoes is what I'm trying to say. Like
yeah.
I'm not against it by any means. I just don't understand what it means to be uh, an opposing gender to your sex. You
Yeah,
know?
I guess I kind of feel the same way. I do sort of get it, but I think it's
Yeah,
something.
like
It's like if you're not in that sort of mindset, it's really hard to understand what's going on, and that's a
right.
case where we should probably have an interview with somebody, and ask them these kinds of questions, and maybe listen to their story.
Yeah, and it's like being a biologist and knowing a very small amount about psychology, uh, maybe this isn't common knowledge, but I happen to understand that sex and gender are two very different things
Hmm.
that we um, ascribe some kind of connection to, which, like on some level there really is, hormonally speaking. But as far as, the way that we classify what's masculine and feminine, that that is just a gender thing. It really doesn't have anything to do with what your genitals are.
Well, no,
Uh,
and it's subjective. It's something that humans made up. We
mhm.
created the term, and we've applied certain objects or conditions to that term. It's not an objective thing,
Yeah,
so it's going to be different for everybody. And
right.
you can't say because I feel this way, that must mean that I'm right, or 100 people feel this way, or 1 million people feel this way. Well, no, that's not how it works. Everybody's different in that regard.
Yeah, and so I think I kind of get, um like, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I kind of get the stance of maintaining the sex designation as what you're born with, if for nothing else, like a medical emergency or something, like you get like a lower abdominal wound or something and they need to know exactly what kind of anatomy they're repairing or something,
Yeah,
like,
that
do you
makes
have a
perfect
uterus
sense.
or do you have a prostate, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Something like that could be possible. They look at your driver's license. They say, okay, you either, because in humans, um, not all animals, but in humans, it is biologically impossible to have a hermaphrodite. So that's the one instance where it is either or. Like,
Yeah.
and
And that's
uh,
fine. That makes a lot of sense, actually, to create that distinction in that regard.
and I
Um,
should mention there are some biologists who are like, well, no, it's not just chromosomes or whatever, because yeah, there's, super male, or no, super females or something. I forget. There's these triploid uh, sexual chromosomes where you get two X's and a Y, or one X and nothing else. Um, you get a variety of combinations, and they have uh, phenotypic uh, changes that correspond. You either become more masculine or more feminine, or you have a host of other problems, because having the wrong number of chromosomes is generally not a good thing.
yeah.
But um, there's people saying that, well, sex is a spectrum too. And like, well, it does boil down to the presence of a Y chromosome, really. Like,
Well, and that's the thing. This is where the whole fuzzy logic thing comes in. It's not. It's You're right. There are two different distinctions: the sex aspect and the gender aspect. Like the sex is mechanically what you have, like your genetics and your hardware and all that stuff, your hormones, whatever those sorts of conditions. Gender is more like your psychology, like how
right.
you feel about something, which is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think people conflate the two, like they have to be together or not together. Well, that's logically fallacious. Like that makes no sense.
Right. Like, how
Yeah.
hard would it be to add a little bit on the driver's license, like sex, male, gender, female?
Well, why does it even matter? This is the thing.
Well, there's
If
people
we
who get really, really bent out of shape if you use the wrong pronoun. Like, even if you just met them on the street and, they look rather masculine, they got a 5 o'clock shadow or whatever, and you're like, hey, man, how's it going? And they're like, I'm a woman. Uh,
well we
well, I saw a statistic today that said you can reduce 65% of suicides. Take this with a grain of salt, by the way. There's zero sources. You can reduce 65% of suicides by using the proper pronouns, and it's like, hang on a second.
hmm.
um, I get wanting to be called what you want to be called. Like, if somebody mispronounces my name, which happens a lot.
Yeah, they always put a C after my name, which drives me up the freaking wall. Ugh.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get to a point where you're like, sometimes you correct them, sometimes you let it roll off that. It's like a case by case thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know why it's got to be such a big deal.
Well, it has a lot to do with intent, as far as I'm concerned. If it's malicious, like someone wants to be identified a certain way, and you consistently, it's sort of like this.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if somebody is like, they call you by the wrong name, and you correct them, and you're like, no, actually, it's Casey, and they keep calling you, Karen, or some other random name over and over and over again. Well, that's malicious.
Yeah.
But there's no problem. How could anybody know what you identify as if you identify as something that is deviant from your physical features? Like what people know. It's like, yeah, exactly. So I think there should be some leeway there, and in terms of giving somebody a chance. If you identify as a woman and you look very masculine, well, people are gonna call you sir or whatever. They're gonna say, hey man, or something, and you got to give them a little bit of a break. And by the same token, it should work the other way. If you're a person, talking to somebody, if someone's like, hey, I identify as a woman, you should be respectful and correct that. Just be like, oh, whoops, sorry, I didn't know, and live and let live. Like, come on.
Yeah. And I'm sure the majority of people probably are, as understanding as that, because that's just kind of a common courtesy, I think. Like, people aren't reading your mind, so
No, but the thing is that then what happens, the problem I see with this kind of thing is the state gets involved, like in Canada, where I don't know if it's Canada wide or if it's just certain provinces, but you can be fined or jailed for using the wrong pronoun now.
Oh my.
And yeah, and that's ridiculous. That, like, okay, I get it if you're maliciously doing it and someone corrects you and you keep on doing it. Yeah, okay. That's wrong. That's bullying, but if
but that you should never be punished with, legal action for something like that. I mean,
how could you know? How would you possibly know?
Well,
it goes beyond just like the whole woman or man, it goes deeper than that. There's all kinds of different things. And how could you know how someone identifies?
I mean, unless they're issuing a fine for any kind of bullying, like calling someone a nerd every day, or, calling them fat, and, things that drive other people to suicide that have nothing to do with sex and gender.
Yeah. Well, I believe me, I dealt with the nerd thing a lot.
Well, so did I.
Before it was cool. Before, sexy girls were wearing T-shirts that say "I heart nerds." Like, no, that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Yeah.
Should call girls sexy, man.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Attractive women, yeah, never mind. Okay. It's getting too complicated.
Different topic.
My mind is going to explode. No, I think, well, okay, here's another thing that I was thinking about too. And I know this is changing. It's changing everywhere. Like, you can inject politics wherever you want, but I think even across political boundaries is changing. The like gay marriage bills and stuff that are being passed that are allowing for that, and I think that's a good thing. Although personally, I think that marriage is stupid. We'll have to do an episode about that.
Yeah.
It's a dumb thing. You should never do it. Don't do it, by the way. But if somebody wants to do it, like, I don't care. But there are people out there that genuinely believe that if you are gay and you get married, that somehow it diminishes their own heterosexual marriage. Like, I don't understand that. How? It's sort of like, I don't like onions on cheeseburgers, right? So I don't get them. I hate it. I can't stand it. But if somebody eats onions on another cheeseburger, does that somehow like diminish my cheeseburger eating experience by extension? Like, it's kind of the same logic, and it makes no sense. I don't care what somebody else eats. I just don't stick a cheeseburger with onions on it down my throat, because I will flip out. And that's sort of my take on it.
That just reminds me of the time we left Wendy's and you were like, you held the bag up and you were like, there are onions in here. It was like 2 grams heavier, and you were like, there's onions on these.
No, I could smell them.
Oh,
I could tell by the smell. Like, I could smell it. It was on the floor, actually, and I could smell it from there. I was like, they did not give us plain double stacks. There are onions in there. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, the experiences we've had. Yeah.
Anyway, to get back to
like gay marriage or whatever, diminishing heterosexual marriage.
Yeah, I think, man, I just think it's silly that we had to go through that. Like, here in Washington, it was like 2012 or something when that was on the ballot, and
I think so.
I participated in a 24-hour telethon thing put on by another podcast, Ask an Atheist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was all kinds of hateful voicemails that they were getting throughout the show that day. One of them was like from Texas or something. They've got a pretty big following, and somebody in Texas was really concerned about what Washington was going to do with marriage. and he called up and was jabbering on about like bringing on the Fourth Crusade.
Oh yes, I remember this. Yeah.
Like, definitely there's some injection of religion there if he's talking about crusades. And
yeah, and I mean, that's bound to happen. Again, this is deeply rooted in our society, and it is changing. And I feel like optimistic about it in that regard. Like, yeah, I know nothing changes overnight. You can't just like show somebody the truth, right? You can't just like show them facts and they're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I feel differently. No, it takes time, and it is changing, and it will change. but yeah, I remember like when that law was being enacted and being voted on and stuff, that people, it was the whole like slippery slope thing. Like people were like, well, now if there's like men marrying men and women marrying women, there's going to be like people marrying goats and like their office desk and stuff, like, you know, that kind of thing. Like, well, it's going to just translate into all this other stuff. And my thought is like, so
Right.
so what? If I want to marry a goat, I should be able to. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, like it's what is marriage?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
a personal thing. If you have a religious conviction about it, then it only means something to you based on that religious conviction. But to other people, it probably doesn't. It's sort of like the onions on burgers.
yeah.
It's a personal thing, and you can't take your personal opinion and assume that your opinion is the only one and apply it to everybody else. And you definitely cannot wield the sword of the state against other people because they feel differently. That's completely wrong. But
Oh yeah.
it happens all too often, unfortunately, on a great many fields. Prostitution is one of those too.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was that guy that commented on one of our posts that he would kill himself if they made prostitution legal. Like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, like
Step back and prioritize here. Like, other people having sex for money somehow translates to you needing to end your life.
God, that is crazy. How do you get through the day if you have that strong of feelings about stuff that other people are doing? Like, honestly, I don't care. I care nothing at all about what other people do, what other people think, how they live their lives, as long as they're not telling me what to do. And that's kind of how I feel about the LGBT like community, I guess, if you can call it that. Like, I don't yeah, like you, I don't understand everything because I'm not a part of that, but I accept it. I think it should exist. Like, we shouldn't judge it in any negative way.
Yeah, you don't have to understand something to accept it.
Yeah.
I think this is actually a really important cognitive rule that people should have is, oh, you know what? I don't necessarily have to understand something fully to accept it as just a thing, you know?
Yeah, well, okay.
A natural reality, like evolution, you know?
Okay, let's take an engineering approach. Me being an engineering-minded person, cars. I would say that probably 99% of the people out there driving cars don't know anything at all about what's going on under the hood or under the chassis. They don't know how everything works, but they do know they push the gas pedal and they go. They, you know, that lack of understanding doesn't deter them from driving the car. It does for me. Like, I have to know everything, but that's my own problem. But you know, those people, they just accept it. Computers. Most people don't know how to program a computer. They don't know how to put one together, but they use it anyway. You know, not knowing a single thing. People have not written one line of code in their entire life. No hello world program, nothing like that. And yet they use a computer every day. Not a second thought.
Yeah. Well, even more relatable of an example probably would be parenting. You know, your first kid, nobody knows what they're doing as a parent, but you're in it and you're doing it and you figure it out. So, you know, you don't understand parenting and you jump into it and become responsible for a whole life. So why is it that you can't just be like, well, I don't understand, but, you know, I'm going to accept it and maybe ask some questions in a respectful way and try to understand it, you know?
That's
just
exactly
like you would try to understand how to be a good parent to your kid, I hope.
Or how a car works or something. Exactly. Yeah.
And like, I don't know the most about cars, but I know more than I did when I was 15.
Yeah, that freaking BMW head gasket. God, that was crazy. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, with what did you say? Respect and
Mhm.
asking questions. I
Yeah.
think that's important. Like if you don't understand something, don't get angry at it. Don't hate it. No matter what it is, if it's like something different ideologies, political things, or feelings about differences in people, whatever it might be, if it's race or gender or something like that. Don't get angry at it. Don't hate it. Just try to understand it a little bit. Be respectful, because these are people.
Yeah.
Though different, as we all are, by the way, we are all different. You can't make a distinction based on gender or race and then ignore the distinctions based on everything else,
Yeah.
like artistic ability or mathematical ability or grammar capability. Except me, I'm a grammar Nazi, by the way. But uh, you I think it's important to respect people to begin with. Be respectful as your fellow human beings, and then ask questions. Talk to people. Get to know people. If you're fearful of something or don't understand it, the best way to overcome that fear is exposure. And understanding. Like,
Yeah.
you should get to know, if you really seriously, if you wig out over somebody that's gay, maybe you should make a gay friend. It'll change your mind. Let me tell you that. You will be a different person, and the world is going to be better for it, I think.
Yeah. There's, there's a few different types of parents. Some of them, unfortunately, disown their gay children, but others uh, choose to change their minds in the
Hmm.
face of, uh, new information, um, new perspective, I guess would be a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Your own child, someone that you um, understand that you need to love unconditionally, or you should, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
there's no requirement, certainly, but you should probably love your child unconditionally.
Yeah.
There's parents out there who are thankfully changing their mind about the way that they were raised to think, and that's going to be a trend that continues, I think.
Yeah.
Like I don't see this
Right.
going downhill from here.
No, not at all. And there are people who think it is, but it is definitely absolutely not. So just anybody watching, rest assured, things are getting better. It may, things go up and down, but the overall trend is towards things getting better. Now,
Yeah.
what you said, um, the parents finding out that their child is gay or whatever, and disowning them, like, I think that's kind of bogus. Like, think about it this way. I'll just replace gay with baker. So your family heritage is, you're a bunch of bakers, and you have a kid, and you're like, oh my god, my son is going to be a baker like me. And they grow up and they're like, you know what? I'm going to be a YouTube star, or I'm going to like start a band or something like that. Would you disown them over that because they have different views on things? They want to go a different direction in life? Hell no. Only an idiot would do that. And I think it's the same way with that. It's like, let people be who they're going to be. You
Yeah.
can't use your preconceived notions about what the future is going to be as the foundation for your decision making in that regard. Like, because things don't work that way. That's that's a universal truth about the the universe, I guess, is that our information is limited, and uh yeah, things are never what they seem, and things could be different. And
I think a lot of what this is just a fair amount of people, mainly from maybe the baby boomer generation, are in a little bit of a state of shock, because coming out of the closet really wasn't popular until, maybe 20 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
been ever steadily increasing, and that needs to continue, because when you're in the closet, there's this ignorance that just builds like cancer, and it thinks, I don't see it, so it's not there, but it is there, and you're hiding something about who you are, and that's no good for you. That's poisonous,
Sure.
and
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 people kill themselves over that too.
people kill themselves over it. People think badly about themselves.
Hmm.
People, get all kinds of negativity.
Oh, and let me just mention Alan Turing, the guy that probably won World War II, was gay, and
And is responsible for computers.
yeah, exactly, and some pretty incredible code breaking and cryptography, but the I'm not going to go into this because there's too many. We're going in a lot of different angles here, but you should definitely look up Alan Turing and his story, because it's a beautiful thing what he did, but it's very, very tragic the way he was treated by society. He was a hero in every sense of the word, and he was treated like shit
Yeah.
because he was gay, and that's wrong. Like, but that's changed. It's definitely changing.
Yeah. And this is, I think this is a really good, cultural learning moment. The fact that we're getting, we as an entire society, we're getting more exposure to the fact that there is homosexuality, there is a gradient, a rainbow, if you will.
Sure.
There is transsexuality. There are these things that a lot of people just like to pretend didn't really exist, or basically the ignorance is bliss needs to come to an end, uh, because
Yeah.
it's not doing anybody any favors to be hiding who they are, and uh, holding them back in society, because like perfectly, like you brought up, Turing did so much good stuff. We wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be on YouTube without Turing,
Yeah.
uh, and it just goes to show that you shouldn't push anything down, no matter how bad you think it is or how bad it is. You need to confront it. You need to bring it out into the open and have a conversation about it. Like, you shouldn't be pushing gay people into the closet, and you shouldn't be punching Nazis, because they're not going to stop being Nazis. They're just going to hide and continue to be Nazis.
Yeah, and that reinforces the position.
Yeah,
By doing that.
exactly. So it's like, we should not be hiding things. We need to be talking about them and
Yeah,
understanding them.
and again, it goes back to the thing, the thought, like, you don't have to celebrate something. Like, you could be a Christian, and think that homosexuality is wrong, even though it's based on like a couple passages in the Bible, which I'm
Very
gonna
loosely
just flip
interpreted.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you could believe that, but these are human beings, and you should let them be who they are, and try to understand. You know, yeah, I think, man, oh geez, I have so many thoughts. I can't even like collect them all right now.
Yeah.
But
I think with the whole religion angle, oftentimes religion is used as an excuse to take what you don't like and justify marginalizing it.
yeah,
I'm totally paraphrasing and butchering the quote. I think it was Susan B. Anthony that said something to the effect of, I find it curious that uh, God's intentions always align with the person quoting it, or something. It was far better put than that.
Well,
You can look
I'll
it
look
up,
that
but
up and put that in the video.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was such a poignant statement because it's so true. You have so many interpretations of what the Bible says. There are plenty of Christian people that don't think homosexuality is a sin. They're okay with it. They are homosexual and Christian. You know, like
I've actually met a few gay Christians.
mm-hmm.
And
That's
yeah,
perfectly natural. Like
again, it's well, and there was a time centuries ago where it was completely acceptable, and then
yeah,
that changed here, and now it's changing back. It's yeah. Um, I think, man, it's there's so many more things we could talk about here, but we're coming up on like 40 minutes
oh
of
wow,
video, and I mean that's I think it deserves it,
yeah,
honestly, this topic, but we have not gone far enough.
yeah. We didn't even touch on all the letters in the acronym.
Oh yeah.
The Q, queer,
Yeah.
or it used to be. I think this changed. I think it used to be questioning, didn't it?
Yeah. Or did they there's
Like people who weren't sure if they were somewhere on the spectrum or not. Like
yeah.
but that one always confused me because growing up, I always thought that was a slur for a gay person,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if they're reclaiming it or if they're considering it to be a different thing from gay. Like I don't fully know what it is, and I've asked people and they've explained it, and I still just don't get it. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody out there can explain it better to me. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't understand what it is. And
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
so yeah, it would be great to get some clarification on that. But I just think that was interesting that like the questioning became queer, and then there's the plus sign too. With there's asexuals and
Mm-hmm.
aromantics, and I would even throw in polyamory.
Yeah.
That's a sexuality, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little more complex than that, but yeah, I guess it is kind of in the same regard.
I mean, there are people who very legitimately. I mean, this needs to be its own episode, but there are people who legitimately think in a very monogamous way, and they don't have the capacity to express romantic love to more than one person. But there are definitely people who can.
Yeah, and that is, let me tell you, in today's society, that is, I it would be harder to tell your parents you're poly than to tell them you're gay right now.
Yeah.
Because no one understands. I think it comes down to that understanding thing. And I look at the acronym, like, as complex as it's become, and all I can think, like, maybe we could just like squish that down and replace all the letters with artists, because that's all I can see. It's just creative people, like or
The
just
artist
people in
formerly
general.
known as LGBTQ.
Yeah. But it's like, why do we need that designation? Why can't we just have people be people with a variety of views and different interests and sexualities and whatever? And like, why does it matter? Why do we
Yeah.
have to try to dictate to other people how to live their lives when it doesn't affect you as the person doing the dictating? Like, I can't wrap my head around that. I don't understand it. I don't know why anybody would cares.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason there is a designation for it is to build solidarity in the marginalized, vulnerable population that it
Sure.
still
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
yeah, I definitely agree. Like eventually it should be in the history books. Like, hey, at one time we thought of these people as like a separate group of people, but just
Mhm.
like skin color, sexuality is just something that we have variance in,
Yeah.
and that's part of being a human being.
It is. Yeah, well, like what you if, I liken it to well, like the cheeseburger thing. You know, do you like onions or no onions or whatever? Do you like cheese on your cheeseburger or no cheese? Do you like the sauce? What? How about favorite bands? You know, some people really love a band and other people really hate it, and you know, I don't think it matters what you like. You just like what you like. It's a product of your genetics and your environment and a whole bunch of development over time. Like it shouldn't matter. That's the thing that logic has to be consistent, and if it isn't, it's invalid. And so this kind of making this distinction between different people on the basis of sexuality. Okay, well, if you make that distinction, fine. But then logically, to be consistent, you have to make the same distinction based on every other difference. Hair color, favorite band, you know, what restaurant you like to eat at, whether you think the Dodge Viper is a cool car or it looks like a shoe. Personally, I think it looks like a shoe. But you know, that's the thing. Like, you can't. It's got to be consistent, or it can't be. It's not logically valid. So, yeah, and that's where I land on that. Like, I think it's a human personality, and it should be respected, whatever it is, as long as it's not telling me what to do. And as long as it's not arresting me for using the wrong word accidentally, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess moral of the story is live and let live. Take the person's money and bake them a damn cake.
Yeah. Well, and again, the cake one, that's an interesting one. I think they should have made the cake. But if they don't want to, well, okay, that's fine, because it's the same personal opinion. But the thing is, there are more than enough cake bakers who are willing to make that cake, and they're going to get the money, not the one that sucks. So leave it alone, and it'll be things will sort themselves out. Like, we got to stop freaking out over stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically they do have the right to refuse service to anyone, which, interesting sidebar, at one point I got a bartending license, and that's pretty much true across the board for any business. You can refuse service to anyone for any reason, even a bigoted one, but you cannot tell a pregnant woman that she can't have alcohol.
What?
Figure that one out. Something that we know.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. Something that we know will be detrimental to the fetus. We can't stop, because that's a bad thing.
That's like saying, if you're a gun dealer, if somebody comes in and said, "Oh, I'm really thinking of killing myself. Can I buy a gun?" You can't refuse to sell the gun to that person. That is crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the law for you.
Well, yeah, that's
just
true.
Because it's the law doesn't mean it's right.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. We should live and let live. Try to be tolerant of people. Ask questions and be respectful. Like, seriously, be respectful, because these are people. You're no angel yourself. So don't pass judgment on other people. And get to know people. Get to know somebody that's different than you. You know, don't just land in the echo chamber and just, you know, nod your head and agree with everybody that you agree with. You should actually challenge yourself and investigate alternative ways of thinking and have a discussion with those people. It's not going to hurt you, like, to think differently. The whole point is finding the truth. And you're not going to find the truth by never asking questions. So that's my 2 cents. I think that's good enough.
You know what really grinds my gears?
You have any closing words?
I think we made a pretty good broad spectrum overview of things. So that's probably about all the time we've got for this
Yeah, I think
topic.
that covers it pretty well, I think. Yeah.
Go out there, go to a pride parade, celebrate, protest, just enjoy the nice June weather, whatever. Just
And
be there for people,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And enjoy the pretty colors or whatever. Like just smile once in a while,
Yeah.
That goes a long way. Yeah, and certainly like engage in conversation with people that maybe you disagree with or you feel are you have a problem with, because that's I'll tell you it's a good thing. um,
Yeah.
so and if anybody has if anybody kind of identifies with any of these categories like trans or queer or whatever, and you want to contribute, leave some comments. We will highlight them and maybe do a follow-up video or maybe do an interview, if you have something to say. That if you want to, if you have more to say than just a couple lines, we might interview you.
Yeah, I know we've certainly expressed some opinions that might ruffle some feathers in that community, but I hope that the overall impression that we left is that we are fully accepting,
Yeah.
and we're not trying to we're trying to be positive about this. We're just trying to say that it is possible to not understand something and still accept it.
I totally agree. And the thing is, we're coming from that sort of standpoint. We don't fully understand. And so we're saying what we can say with what we know.
Yeah. It's a good thing to say that you don't know. It's a good thing to say, I don't understand. Please inform me.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be ideal to have somebody who's has a broad variety of information in any of those categories to educate everybody in a video. I think that would be good. But yeah, I think we covered enough for now.
Yeah.
We'll definitely come back to this topic because there's so much to it, and there's
So we should wrap it up, and go ahead and like and share this video, and please subscribe. It would be really cool if we hit that 100 subscriber mark, because then we can get a custom URL and we can make some cool swag.
Yeah.
Swag.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. And enjoy. Wait. Thanks for deep sink diving with us.
Oh yeah. And enjoy this awesome rainbowy music on the way out.
And happy Pride Month, everybody.